I'm Derek Cole, 58 years old, and for the last 17 years, I've worked my ass off building our company's overseas presence. Meanwhile, the founder's kid, Kayla Benton, played around with slogans and lighting design. So, when we finally got a shot at the Matsuda Ventures deal, a $165 million project I'd courted for 8 years, Kayla introduces me to the CFO as our language support. It's like a punch to the gut. I've led meetings in Yokohama, shared shochu with Ryo Matsuda's uncle in Sapporo, fixed compliance crises at 2:40 a.m., while everyone else was sleeping. And she calls me support. I didn't let it show, but inside, yeah, it stung, hard. Her presentation, a disaster. Clip art blossoms, cheesy sushi zetar trust lines, and a slide titled Kawaii Capital. 3 emails from me warning her to get it together. And this is what she comes up with? I text Lena. It's going to be rough, she shoots back. Keep your head down. Mortgage hits next quarter. That squeeze of pressure? It wasn't just financial. It was being the guy who has to hold it all together, the one who works behind the scenes, but still gets treated like the guy carrying the coffee. If it all crashed, I wouldn't be the one scrambling. I'd be the one speaking the truth, out loud, in the room, with the words that actually mattered. The Matsuda delegation was landing tomorrow. 6 executives, including Chairman Ryo Matsuda himself. The man doesn't travel unless respect is guaranteed. So, when Kayla renamed the file Project Wasabi and decided to kick things off with a haiku, she pulled from some app. I was already running the scene in my head. I sent my 4th note. Don't do phonetics unless fluent. Use the formal welcome. She didn't reply. Not even a thumbs up. I knew better than to chase her on it. I stayed late, rewriting the greetings in Japanese. None of that cutesy konnichiwa nonsense. It needed to be formal, respectful. I packed small, meaningful gifts, hand-calligraphed name scrolls from a Tokyo artisan, the kind that show thought, not just money. I could almost picture the delegation's reaction when they saw it. Ryo Matsuda's eyes, sharp but warm, his hands resting lightly on the scroll, acknowledging the effort. It would matter to him, even if it didn't matter to her. I also tucked a 1-page protocol guide in my folder. The usual stuff, how the greetings should go, tea ceremony basics, seating chart showing the real head position in the room. Kayla wouldn't understand the weight of the seating chart, but Matsuda would. It wasn't just about who sat where, it was about who was acknowledged first. I'd seen too many deals wrecked by ignoring that little detail. At home, I checked my phone while Lena was finishing dinner. Her brother had sent me a text about a job lead. If this foreign thing dries up. I stared at it for a minute, letting the words sink in. People think men don't hear that stuff, that we don't notice when someone's already got one foot out the door, just waiting for us to fail. We do. I put the phone face down. No need to reply. There wasn't anything to say. I barely slept that night, maybe 4 hours, just long enough for my brain to go into autopilot. When I woke up, I wasn't panicking or angry. I was calm, not happy, just steady. Like I'd been on the edge of something all night, and now I was ready for whatever came next. I didn't feel the need to make any big speeches or get pumped up. I knew what was at stake. I knew the line. If someone crossed it, I'd be the one to put them back on the other side. I pulled on my jacket, the same one I'd worn to countless meetings before this one, and grabbed the folder with everything I'd prepared. Walking out of the apartment, I didn't look back. The Matsuda delegation walked in like tidewater. Quiet, measured, formal. 6 of them, all in dark suits that made the room feel even smaller. Then, at the front, Ryo Matsuda. The man was all precision. Every movement deliberate. Every gesture telling you exactly where you stood in his eyes. His bow was subtle, but sharp. The kind that says, I'm paying attention. I respect this moment. Kayla blasted in a few seconds later, iced latte in hand, a wide grin on her face like she was running a seminar instead of a negotiation. She mispronounced the greeting, the one I'd sent her 4 times, and called him Mr. Matsuda. The room stiffened for a beat. One junior associate actually flinched, but nobody said anything. Kayla turned and pointed at me like I was still just a sidekick. Derek, grab coffees for our guests, she said, just like that. No hesitation. Not our lead negotiator, or even Derek, just Derek. As if my entire role here was to fetch drinks. I felt that sting, But I didn't let it show. I stood up, walked past her, and took the ceremonial head seat, the one that's supposed to go to the leader. I didn't ask for it, I just took it. I turned to Mr. Matsuda, and in perfect Japanese, I offered him a clean, formal apology for the disharmony we'd caused with our presentation. It wasn't a perfect apology, it was better. I said, "A leader listens first," quoting his father, just like I had done in our last meeting in Tokyo, back when it had been about respect, not this circus. Kayla's face went pale as she froze mid-latte. The room went quiet for a second too long. Mr. Matsuda set his cup down. Slowly, deliberately, he stood up. In firm English, he said, "We do not sign with amateurs." The words cut through the room like a blade, each syllable deliberate. Then he bowed to me. Not a casual bow, but the kind that acknowledges a moment of power, a shift in the room. He turned to his team and said, "Gather the folders. We're leaving." I stayed seated. No rush to move. Something in Matsuda's tone told me the door wasn't fully closed. My hands were steady, palms flat on the table, fingers spread wide. If this house was going to crack, I wanted the studs showing. Let everyone see who knocked it loose, and who held it up as long as it could be held. Kayla stood there for a few seconds, frozen, trying to process. She opened her mouth like she was going to speak, but the words didn't come. I didn't have to look at her to know she was feeling the weight of it. The loss, the embarrassment, all of it. But I wasn't going to be the one to fix it for her. She hadn't earned it. Ryo Matsuda and his team gathered their folders slowly, not hurrying, as if they'd known the outcome the whole time. Kayla shifted her weight, clearly unsure what to do. There was no one in the room who was going to fix this for her either. This wasn't something you could talk your way out of. I waited, quiet, calm, holding the space for what came next. No one spoke. Mr. Matsuda walked out first, followed by his team, heads held high. The door clicked shut behind them, and then the silence settled in, thick and heavy. I stayed at the table, looking out the window, listening to the echoes of footsteps fading away in the hall. The moment when power left the room and landed squarely in my lap. 20 minutes after Matsuda walked out, I was at the vending machines, leaning against a dying ficus that looked like it hadn't seen water in weeks. CFO Graham Voss pulled me aside. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Off the record, what happened exactly?" I handed him my notepad. Clean, neat. Timestamps, warnings sent, protocol sheets ignored. Everything in black and white. No room for misinterpretation. He skimmed it like a guy reading a weather report that had already soaked him. Eyes scanning the page, no surprise in his face. He didn't need to hear it. He knew exactly what had happened. The room buzzed around me, but I wasn't paying attention. I was already thinking about what came next, how the fallout would spread, who would try to cover their tracks, and who'd look for someone to blame. By lunch, it was happening. Investors were pinging me like I was their new favorite target. "Clarify leadership now. Revisiting allocations. Is Matsuda off?" Whatever Kayla was spinning in the background, it wasn't holding. Accounting scrubbed the Tokyo numbers from our next projection. Procurement parked the cross-Pacific binder under pending. That word? Pending. It's code for "we're scared." They didn't know which way this thing was going, but they sure as hell didn't want to be caught in the middle if it went south. Kayla fired off a message in the group thread. "Saboteur." I could practically hear the venom in her fingers as she typed it. The word landed like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I forwarded my emails to legal and strategy with the subject line, "Prior written guidance, April-July." My note was dry, nothing fancy, just the facts. Everything I'd warned her about, laid out. No emotion, no drama, just a timeline. By the time I hit send, I could feel the storm starting to swirl around her. Kayla wasn't built for this. She hadn't seen the real weight of a deal crash down. She was about to get a front row seat to it, though. The board scheduled an emergency review for the next morning. Official topic, client impact. Real topic, the difference between theater and work. They weren't interested in Kayla's spin or her excuses. This wasn't about office politics anymore. It was about what had actually happened in that room. I leaned back against the vending machine, watching people bustle around, pretending nothing had shifted. I knew what was coming, and I wasn't looking forward to it, but I wasn't scared either. In a few hours, they'd know who'd done the real work, and who'd been playing pretend. In the review meeting, I slid the printouts across the table. April 20 Wold. Use honorifics, Don't phonetic read. May 10th. Remove animated cat in armor. June 5th. Do not theme this sushi and synergy. I kept my eyes steady, waiting for Kayla's reaction. She tried to laugh it off, but it was nervous laughter, the kind you do when you're already halfway through a lie, and you know it's about to collapse. The chair didn't laugh. The room got colder. They'd CC'd the founder, Harold Benton, who was retired and watching from a distance. His presence alone made everything sharper, like the weight of his history hung in the air, pressing down. The rest of the room felt it too. The game was different when Harold was mentioned. At 1:43 a.m., I got the email. No subject line, no fluff. Just a message from Ryo Matsuda's personal account. We will deal with you directly going forward. Provide address for contracts. I stared at it for a while, no mistaking what it meant. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a decision. I replied at 3:12 a.m. Thank you for the trust. I'll handle communication personally. Documentation to follow. I hit send, then sat there in the dark for a while, feeling my pulse finally settle after 2 days of chaos. The weight in my chest lightened, just a little. I was where I needed to be. By 8:15 a.m., I was sitting in a quiet 27th floor room with Voss from Finance, Legal, and Risk. They poured me coffee like I'd been promoted already. No questions, no hesitation. The atmosphere was different. It wasn't just the coffee. It was the way they were looking at me, like they were already adjusting to something new. Then the door slammed open. Kayla stormed in, late as usual, with that frantic energy she always had when the room was turning on her. She looked at the table and snapped, "Why is he here?" The board chair, Elliot Crane, didn't even look up from the papers in front of him. "Because we asked him." The air in the room shifted then, heavy and sharp. All the focus moved from Kayla to me, and it stayed there. No one even tried to hide it. You could feel the shift, the room realigning itself, rebalancing after a long period of tension. Kayla opened her mouth like she was about to argue, but the words didn't come. Instead, she just stood there, a little lost, while everyone else settled into their new positions. The chair didn't give her the floor. No one did. It was mine now. I wasn't surprised. This wasn't about my past work or my tenure. It was about one simple thing. I had the trust of the client. I had earned it. Kayla hadn't, and the room knew that. I wasn't the only one who'd been patient, who'd been waiting for this moment. The board was watching closely now. Kayla, for all her ambition and flair, had shown them who she really was, and I wasn't about to let her backtrack. Not in this room, not today. The silence hung there for a second longer, and then they started talking about next steps. Real steps. The kind that mattered. The game had shifted, and I was no longer just a side player. Crane looked up from the papers and fixed his gaze on me. Walk us through the timeline. I didn't flinch. I gave it to them flat and clean. No heat. Warnings lodged. Protocol ignored. The cancellation. The 1:43 a.m. message from Ryo Matsuda, crystal clear. We will deal with you directly going forward. I didn't need to add anything more. The details spoke for themselves. Kayla couldn't help herself. She snapped. He went behind me. Crane didn't blink. He didn't even shift his posture. He did his job. Strategy chimed in, a little more quietly, but just as pointed. We've been leaning on him for years without the title. I could feel the shift in the room. Subtle at first, like a weight moving, but it was there, undeniable. They were all seeing what had been clear for a long time, but wasn't said until now. Then they asked me the big question. Will you stabilize international strategy? I thought about it for a second. Depends, I said. I pick my team, and I have veto on anything that crosses a border. Heads nodded, like they'd been waiting for this answer. Then I added, direct line to the board, no comms filter. More nods. The shift kept going, picking up speed now. The center of the room was moving toward me, and there was no mistaking it. They said they'd draw up EVP of Global Strategy papers. The title, the authority, all of it. I didn't smile, didn't feel like smiling. It felt more like laying a heavy bag down after carrying it too far. Relief? Yes, but not the kind that made you want to celebrate. Kayla didn't stay long after that. No storm off, no dramatic exit. She just left, tight-lipped. One last look at the room, and then the door clicked shut behind her. No fanfare, just the quiet exit of someone who had finally hit a wall. I didn't watch her go. I stayed right where I was, letting the weight of the moment settle in. This wasn't the end of anything, but it was a beginning. I was alone in the elevator when the door slid open, and Kayla stepped in at the last second. She shot me a look like I'd just stolen her lunch. "You think one deal makes you a hero?" Her voice had that edge, like she was already preparing her defense. I didn't respond right away, just watched the floor numbers tick up, the soft hum of the elevator drowning out her question for a moment. When I did speak, I kept it even. No emotion, no drama. "I don't want a parade," I said. "Just the authority to do the job." She glared at me, arms crossed, like she was about to spit some more venom. "You owe your spot to my patience." I didn't flinch. "It feels more like a leash than a ladder." Her jaw tightened. I could see the muscles working in her face, the tension in her neck. She didn't say anything else, though. The elevator dinged, and we both stepped out. The silence between us thick, but neither one of us breaking it. I made my way to compliance. Half an hour later, I dropped a sealed 3-year-old report on Crane's table. The ink was faded, but it didn't matter. It was a record. Missed deadlines, off-the-cuff promises to the foreign press, unvetted campaigns sold overseas, everything that Kayla had touched and messed up. HR muttered something about protocols. I didn't listen. Crane cut them off. "We've been adjusting protocols for Kayla for years." Then he looked at me. For a moment, everything else disappeared. His gaze was steady, like he was seeing through all the noise and straight to the heart of it. "Your terms stand," he said. I didn't smile, didn't nod. I wasn't there to win him over. I was there to do my job, and I was getting the tools to make it happen. I added specifics like I'd planned. 6 head count, I picked them, full budget autonomy, and written independence from Kayla's chain. I paused, let the words sink in. If it crosses a border, my desk sees it first. Crane didn't flinch. He just signed off. No hesitation, no second guessing. The deal was done. I signed my name at the bottom of the contract. A lean thing, simple but solid. The kind of paper that didn't need any colors to have teeth. That was it. The weight of it all settled into my chest. This wasn't a victory. It wasn't a loss. It was just what needed to happen. The right people saw the truth, and now it was time to do the work. Kayla had left the room, but I wasn't worried about her. Not anymore. The boardroom filled up with legal, risk, and investor relations. The usual crew, straightening ties they had already straightened, adjusting papers that had already been arranged. There was that kind of quiet energy. Everyone sitting up straighter, like they were bracing for something. Kayla sat 3 chairs down, a phone glued to her hand, scrolling with that tense, manic energy she always had. Her thumb flicked across the screen, like it could erase what had already happened. A knock came at the door. The room fell silent. It opened, and Ryo Matsuda walked in alone. He was carrying a single black folder, like it was something heavy, something important. He didn't look at anyone else, just gave a formal bow to the room, then stopped right in front of my chair. "Coulson," he said, his voice calm, steady. He placed the folder down in front of me. The room held its breath as I opened it. The contract inside was crisp, a clean signature, new terms, revised valuation, $215 million. Not just a bump, but a message. I thanked him in Japanese, then switched to English, letting the room hear every word clearly. This should answer the leadership question. The murmurs that followed were low, like a hum in the background. People trying to figure out how to process it. Before she could say a word, Matsuda added, calm and direct, "A leader knows when to listen." I didn't need to translate that, but I did, just to make sure there was no misunderstanding. "A leader knows when to listen," I said, the words hanging in the air between us. Kayla didn't argue. She just stood up, tight-lipped, and left the room. The door shut behind her with a soft click. No words, no drama. Just a quiet exit. The kind of exit people make when they know they've been beaten, but can't bring themselves to admit it. No one followed her. The room stayed still, watching. And then, just like that, the focus shifted. Everyone's attention was on me. The air had shifted again, but this time it wasn't cold. It was expectant. The room had moved from uncertainty to understanding, and I wasn't going to waste it. I sat back in my chair, hands steady. No need to say more. The deal was sealed. The question was answered. No more talking, no more wondering. The work would begin now, and it was going to be different. I walked back to my new office. Glass walls, quiet, the kind of space that makes you feel like you're actually in the company now. 2 floors above the brand lab, where they used to park me near the interns. The difference felt sharp. The weight of it settled in as I set one thing on the shelf. A framed calligraphy gift from a Matsuda cousin. Makoto, it said, sincerity. Lena called as soon as I sat down. How'd it go? She asked. I could hear the uncertainty in her voice, but I didn't give her anything but calm. We're good, really good. She laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that made me think everything was okay. It was tired. Maybe your mother can stop calling you the translator at Thanksgiving. I smiled, leaning back in the chair. I'll settle for her using my job title once. There was a pause, then a softer laugh from her. It felt like a moment of relief for both of us, the pressure starting to lift. The next couple of hours were a blur of small interactions. Folks stopped by, risk, compliance, even a junior from marketing who once asked me if you bow clockwise. They all dropped off little thanks. Nothing grand, just a sticky note here, a coffee there, a quiet nod. It's funny what respect looks like up close. People don't always know how to say it, but you feel it in the little things. I sent one email to my team, some veterans, 2 fresh faces, one kid from procurement I'd watched outwork an entire floor. Just a simple note. We work clean, we win quiet, we don't embarrass people, ever. No gloating, no speeches. I forwarded the signed Matsuda contract to the board and filed it under a sane name. Nothing flashy. Just another piece of paper in the system, but this one would mean something. Then I blocked out time to visit Tokyo next month. Real greetings, real tea, no gimmicks. I didn't need a parade for that either. It wasn't about the fanfare. People say revenge is loud. For me, it was simple. I got the authority I'd earned. The folks who had treated me like furniture had to sit in a room and watch the client choose me. That's enough. I'm not out to run the world. I'm out to run my corner of it right and make sure no one mistakes the guy who carries the relationships for the guy who carries the coffee again.